Why don't they follow through? I'm Kwan Howard. This is the morning drive. 10 minutes, operator to operator. From the field, let's work it. Most bosses, when this happens to them, go straight to the same place. They think that their team doesn't care. They think their team isn't committed. They think their team is just dragging their feet. Like a good friend of mine likes to call it knuckle dragging. I get it. I've been there. But here's what I found from doing this for 15 years. That read is usually wrong, and the real problem is one layer deeper. And by the end of these 10 minutes, you'll see what's really going on. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let me tell you about an organization I worked with. The franchisee had just gotten a brand visit, and the big push at the time was focused on customer friendliness, specifically customer friendliness in the drive-thru window. Now, a few days after the visit, the director of operations went to one of the stores. She was doing a walkthrough with the shift manager. Let's call the shift manager Sarah, just for ease. Sarah was new, but she was still in her training window. Now, while Sarah and the director were walking around, the director noticed the cashier in the drive-thru window, let's call her name Maya, was saying the same thing to every car that pulled up. Order when you're ready. That was it. There was no hello, there was no smile, there was no name, just order when you're ready. The director leaned over to Sarah and said, "Hey Sarah, look, there's something you want to be aware of." Sarah turned and walked over to Maya, started coaching her right there, telling Maya she needed to greet customers. She needed to smile, she needed to use their name, etc., etc. Now, Maya got defensive right away, said something really snappy back to Sarah. And as you can imagine, what was going on in Sarah's head was, hey, here we go again, another attitude, another excuse. And Sarah, just to prevent from causing a scene, decided to just back off. Now, at this point, the director stepped in and asked what was going on. And Maya said this, and I want you to listen to this closely. "They always want us to be fast. Now you want me to round up for charity. Now you want me to sell the add-on. Now you want me to be friendly in 3 seconds. Y'all need to make up y'all mind because y'all asking too much. So yeah, I've been taking shortcuts." Now, if you're a boss listening to this, that line hits your ears in one of two ways. The first way is the one most of us jump to, and that's Maya sounds like she has an attitude problem. She's making excuses. She's blaming the company for her own bad behavior. The second way is the one most bosses will miss, and that's that Maya just told you exactly what was broken in your operation. Now, here's what I want you to take from this. There's a difference between won't and can't, and most bosses miss it. Won't is the person could do it. They chose not to. And you would handle that one way. Can't is the person would do it if they could, but something is missing. And you'll handle that a totally different way. And when you treat a can't like a won't, you get the Maya conversation. Every single time, like clockwork, the person will shut down, you'll walk away frustrated, and nothing will change. And so here's the move. Stop asking, is this person committed? And start asking, can they actually do what you're requiring? Stop walking into conversations with, why didn't you follow through? And start walking in with, what is getting in the way of you following through? If you'll stop reading the shutdown as an attitude and start reading the shutdown as a report, you'll see that the same person with the same failure requires two different conversations. Now, I want you to think about your team for a second. Think about that person, the one you've been frustrated with for weeks, maybe months, the one you keep having the same conversation with, the one who keeps saying they'll do it and then they don't. You've been carrying that every day, every shift, every meeting where they come up empty. You've been carrying the worry that maybe it's you. Maybe you're not being clear enough. Maybe you're pushing or not pushing hard enough. Maybe you're just too soft. You've been carrying the frustration that the same conversation just doesn't seem to land, that you've been carrying the thought, even if you don't say it out loud, that maybe this person just doesn't care. Now, that type of weight to be carrying around is heavy. But there's exciting news in spite of it, because most of the time, that weight is on the wrong shoulder. You see, you've been carrying it as if you have a people problem, as if they don't care problem, as if maybe it's me type of problem. But once you ask the right question, can they actually do this? Most of that weight comes off, because the answer is usually no, not because they don't care, but because something is missing. And missing things, whether you believe it or not, can be installed. So, if that's true, that missing things can be installed, if it's true that it's possibly a missing component and not a people problem, then it simply means that the problem is focused around a method correction and not a people correction. So your team's not broken. The work gets handed off in the way it does, and that process is the thing that's broken. And once you see it that way, you can fix that. You can fix that permanently, actually. So the question, can they actually do this, is one of three conditions. And these three conditions have to be true in order for accountability to work. I don't care what industry you're in. The same three conditions: awareness, ability, and agreement, universal across industries. Today, I worked on the ability step, which is the middle step, and it's the one that you arrive at right before you accomplish agreement. It's the middle step, the one we've covered today, that's the most invisible of the three. It's the one that gets misread by bosses all the time, and it's usually portrayed as if the person has an attitude. But once you start asking the right questions, you'll see the ability gap everywhere, that middle step. You'll see it in your team, you'll see it in yourself, you'll see it in people that you've already stopped giving feedback to because you assumed that they just didn't care. Guess what? They probably did care. The conditions they needed to be successful just weren't there. So back to the question we started with. Why don't they follow through? Most of the time, it isn't because they won't. It's because they can't. And the most common reason they can't is something invisible is getting in the way. And you haven't asked about it yet. So here's your Monday move. Pick one person on your team you've been frustrated with, one person you've had the same conversation with more than once, and before the next conversation, ask yourself one question. Can they actually do this? Not are they motivated, not do they care, not did they say yes, but can they do it? If you want help walking that out, and you would like to get a real idea of what's potentially breaking down in your operation, there's a 5-minute diagnostic on my website, kwanhoward.com. If you look in the top right-hand corner, there's a button that says take the diagnostic. Click that. It's free. Check it out. It'll walk you through the 3 steps of accountability that I've been talking about, and it'll tell you which one is actually broken in your operation right now. Now, next week, we're going to cover agreement. It's the step most bosses jump to first, when in actuality, agreement should be the last thing that you cover with the team. This is the Morning Drive. I'm Kwan Howard. I'll see you next week.